What's up, everybody? It's good to be back messing around in the 240. As you can see, we have a bunch of crazy stuff going on in this aquarium, which isn't that bad. It's all pretty much just some of the ins and outs of essentially growing a big tank. As you know, you kind of start out with just a few plants, and eventually you work your way up to having a full-blown, grown-in tank, and that's kind of what's happening here. One of the big problems that I've been having with this tank is sort of an overabundance of hardness in the water, which has allowed basically a gigantic algae bloom has happened. And I've been going through and treating with glutaraldehyde, which is actually Seachem Excel. I've been dosing quite a bit in there to knock this out. So if you're looking around while I'm trimming and stuff, that's why you're seeing this, it's blackbeard algae and a calatophora. It's basically a couple different kinds of little brushy algae just being basically annihilated, but we've got a couple more days before it's gonna, knock it all the way out of the park. And in the meantime, I still have a ton of trimming to do and a lot of maintenance to do. So I wanted to let you know before we get into it, that's what's going on with this. So to bridge any questions of like, what's up with all this algae, what's going on, I was hoping to head those off at the pass. We have a bunch of plants we've got to do some maintenance on here today. You guys can see the stargrass is completely out of whack, but I'm going to save you from actually trimming that. We're going to work with some of the kind of funner plants over on this side of the aquarium, and so let's jump into that and get it rocking and rolling. The first plant I've got to deal with is this Rotala over here. Then we're going to move into the Persicaria, which is this plant right here. But as you can see, the Rotala this has like no shape to it whatsoever. I just stuck some of it over here. And my puffer, which is a Schaudedenei, I don't know how to say it correctly, it's German. Puffer, the spotted Congo puffer, made his home here. So instead of removing the plant, I just decided, hey, nature made a bit of a decision for me, because I had just dropped this Rotala down here with a plant weight on it, just to keep it alive and just kind of out of the way. But the weird part of me said, hey, nature helped make a decision, and nature wanted this Rotala to be over here for the puffer. So I figured, what's more important? My own personal preference, or the fish kind of being stoked about having an area to live in. All right, well, the Persicaria actually is being more of a problem to even get over there, so let's go ahead and move this out of the way first. Now, the unfortunate part of this is that it's got so much aerial root on it right now that there isn't much that I can do other than to just carefully uproot it. It's gonna make a mess, so I wanted to wait, but it's kind of in the way to just get to the Rotala, so let's just carefully pull this out, and then we'll go ahead and trim and replant that, I think, because I kind of fell in love with the Persicaria being up above over there. Now this Ludwigia right here, you can see, is different than this Ludwigia. It's not wildly different in coloring. Its coloration is pretty close once it's up in the bright sun. Now the best identifier that I've been able to find for this is that it's ovalis, but I don't know if that's the proper name. Maybe somebody out there knows the proper name for this Ludwigia versus, this is repens. This is a repens I've been growing for a long time. That's why it's so kind of weird looking. Spent a lot of time messing around with that Ludwigia back there. Now this piece has grown so big, I'm gonna need to trim it all the way down here, which kind of sucks, but it's gonna be the best bet for dealing with this. Pull out this whole piece. and it's rooted also. All of its roots are in there. So there we go. We'll pull that out of the way. Okay. And we got a little extra roots and stuff going on. We're going to kind of trim those away. But now that the Persicaria is out of the way, we can continue trimming this Rotala, because I definitely want this to have better shape, and I also don't want it to be completely growing down into the substrate like it is right down there. Let's get a little bit of a wider shot so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So a lot of this Rotala is growing along the substrate, and it will definitely do this so that it can go occupy, you know, another area, you know, get over here more towards the light and grow up tall like the rest of it. You can see as it grows along the substrate, it sends up all these little shoots as it goes, which will generally lead people to think, oh, I could probably carpet with this Rotala. But the problem is, even if you let those grow along the bottom, all of those little sprigs will grow this tall. And this is a 24-inch tall tank, and there's probably 4 inches of substrate down in here, something like that. And so it's, you know, it easily can grow 20 inches tall, and that's not very conducive for a good looking scape, you know, just to have stuff, you know, just a wall of plants growing up to the top. Now I guess, like, if you had something like a Wallstad tank or something like that, that'd probably be, this actually would be a probably pretty useful tank for that, because it doesn't need a ton of light, and even without CO2 it'll just grow green. So eventually, once the tank is mature and is producing CO2 and stuff, then it'll turn red. So this might actually be a pretty good tank for, or a good plant for a tank like that, because you could use it as an identifier to know when, you know, everything breaking down in the substrate and whatnot is producing enough CO2. So that really could be helpful, I think. For me though, I'm manually adding CO2 myself, so I'm not really too concerned about that. I just want to make sure that this plant has some good shape to it. If it's going to occupy this corner, then I at least want it to look nice, and you know, my puffer have a cool little home that looks good. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't have chosen to do it this way, but I kind of just succumbed to the, you know, natural selection, right? Like nature has decided. You know, I'm just trimming every little piece right in line with, I'm either cutting it where it's already branched off and split, or just below that, depending on where that has happened in the past. It'll allow it to grow much more dense, just because you'll just have more shoots growing up. And you guys will notice that I do this pretty slowly, and I get it. There are a lot of people out there that just trim with like really big scissors and kind of just go wild with it. But that's not my personal style. I personally like to kind of go slow with this and make sure that I'm putting the thought into what I'm doing. Thanks for tuning in. If you had a good time hanging out with this kind of slow-moving Bob Ross style aquascaping adventure, hit the subscribe button, click the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you want to see next. Obviously, you could go ahead and look through my library of videos here on YouTube. Most of them have to do with taking care of aquariums or setting up aquariums, or generally things to do with freshwater planted aquariums. That's kind of what their main focus is. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next time, I guess, right? Later? Later.